This is Lady B, and this week I wanted to discuss herbal teas and tea blends, specifically a few of my own recipes. Now, according to Virginia Castleton from the Calendar Book of Natural Beauty, and I quote, "For centuries, herbs have been used to good benefit for allaying nervousness. Through use over ever so many generations, certain plants have been established as having specific benefits, and their effectiveness has been authenticated by herbalist handbooks and family recipes." Well, this book was printed in, I believe, 1973. In 1973, I remembered correctly. And nowadays, we have doctors who have authenticated this stuff. Now, disclaimer, I am not a doctor. All I am going to do is pass on what I have been told between this book and from what I have read online from various medical websites. The fact remains that herbal teas are known to have effects that are good for your health. Now, several herbs, and frequently used in teas, can be used on their own. For example, this is Rosehips. It's extremely high in vitamin C. In fact, according to Virginia Castleton, she recommends drinking a cup of tea made from rosehips 2 or 3 times a day to keep your vitamin C up, and it will improve your general health. Now, you could take a vitamin C pill, but why when you can enjoy it with honey? Ah, it smells so good. Now, my favorite tea is actually hibiscus, which is an antioxidant, and it just tastes really good. Peppermint is good for both soothing the bowels and for relaxation. Speaking of relaxing, not everyone likes it, but Valerian Root is amazing as a muscle relaxant. When I got in a car accident once, my chiropractor actually prescribed me pills of this to take as a muscle relaxant. If you are really stressed out, this stuff is amazing. Not everyone likes the taste though. And of course, there is the queen of herbal teas, chamomile. Now, chamomile is supposed to have a great many things that are good about it. She lists them in here. It is a tonic for poor body tone, can revive a tired body and dispirited mind, sought by those working under pressure for its relaxing qualities. Basically, it is supposed to be wonderful. It is a very delicate flavor, however, and all of these are wonderful by themselves, but what about when you want to blend them? Now, depending on what you want to make and what you're blending it for will determine, of course, what goes into it. Now, step 1 or tip 1, don't put valerian root in a blend with anything else. It has a very strong flavor and it will take over everything. So I'm going to put this to the side. But I have myself a few blends that I have come up with that I use for my own teas. Now, there are a lot of herbal tea blends you can buy that claim to soothe anxiety or be good for helping you to go to sleep at night, and various similar claims. But I find sometimes simple is better. So I have a tea blend I make for it that just has 3 ingredients. It has a 1/2 cup of spearmint, a 1/4 cup of chamomile, and a 1/4 cup of lemon verbena. Now, if you're not familiar with lemon verbena, I grow this in my herb garden, and I highly recommend that you do too if you have a place to grow a herb garden or any other planting. Not only is it good for teas, but it's a great substitute for lemongrass. For those of us who live in places where it gets too cold to grow lemongrass itself. And lemongrass can be so expensive, and it's a concentrate. You use about 1/3, 1/4 the amount of this that you would for lemongrass in any recipes. So I grow this myself, clip it, hang it up in a cool, dry place, dry it myself, and then use it both for my cooking and for my teas. And it is also very soothing. Again, administered to relieve nervous exhaustion. Hippocrates actually found it to be a cure-all and strongly urged its use in tea for various indispositions, including nervous disorders, which makes it perfect for this. Now, how I make my blends is I have these glass jars, and I just put my tea ingredients in the jars, and then I use the jar to mix it. Now, you don't have to use the same amount I do. You can always make a smaller amount, but I like to make a bunch up ahead of time, so when I want it, I can just reach in, grab a tablespoon or two, and put it in my kettle. And there is my blend for nighttime soother, or for nerves or anxiety, any of that. This will work. 3 ingredients, so simple. Now, as I am assembling this next one, you may notice I have broken out the mortar and pestle. And that is because some of these herbs need to be bruised a little, broken up, before being put into the blend. Once that has been done, though, you are going to want to use this blend within the next few weeks to a few months. So only make up as large of an amount as you think you will use. I like to make up about a cup worth to a cup and a half. The first recipe makes 1 cup exactly. This one will make 9 ounces. My last one will be a cup and a half. But it's all proportional. You can make as much or as little as you need. This next one is a stomach soother. I don't know about you, but sometimes I want something to help with an upset stomach. And I have found that nothing works better than peppermint, which is the main ingredient for this one, not spearmint. I like the spearmint better for nerves, but when it comes to an upset stomach, I find nothing works better than peppermint, unless it's peppermint with other things added to it, which is what this blend is. So we start with 3/4 cup of peppermint. To that, I add 4 teaspoons of each of fennel, Rosehips. Now this is actually for flavor. It needed a little something to round it out, but it's vitamin C. It's still good for you. Star Anise and crystallized ginger. Now you can buy this in the stores or you can make it yourself. Alton Brown has a really great recipe I use myself to make a pound of this at a time. He says it keeps for a few weeks. I find it keeps almost indefinitely as long as you keep it refrigerated or frozen. And it's really good in my tea. And the last ingredient is 2 teaspoons of coriander. And I know that sounds a little odd, but I have found this to be wonderful when I have an upset stomach and I just need something to help it feel better. So, there we are. And that is my stomach soother blend. Now, this last blend is not a soother or something for health. This one is for pure enjoyment. In the winter, when most people break out the hot chocolate, this is what I have instead. And it's one I came up with on my own just to suit me, which I highly encourage you to do. Now, it has 5 ingredients. you start with 3/4 cup of dried apple. Now, I used to dry these apples myself, but then I discovered that you can buy freeze-dried apples. So, if you go to the store and you buy freeze-dried apples, it takes about 0.7 ounces or 20 grams to make the 3/4 cup that I have as my base here. To that, I add the zest from 1 orange. Zest varies from orange to orange, but 1 orange will get you what you need. Also, I do 1/4 cup of the, again, candied ginger. I love both the sweetness and that ginger bite. It makes me think of winter. 2 tablespoons of hibiscus. Do not do more than 2 tablespoons. Hibiscus has a very strong flavor. If you do more, you might as well just use hibiscus. Keep it to 2 tablespoons. It will add a beautiful fruity flavor to it. And lastly, broken up, you can't see it very well, but this is a small stick of cinnamon, which I have broken up in the mortar and pestle. And it's so good. I refer to this as my apple ginger tea, but it's sweet and fruity. It's so good on a winter night. I just adore it. Now, because of some of the ingredients in here, sometimes they're not entirely dry. It's not as much of a problem now that I'm using the freeze-dried apples, but just to be sure, I have a folded up piece of paper towel that I set in the top of this particular blend just to absorb any moisture that might make its way in between the ginger and the apples if they're not freeze-dried and the other ingredients. And this is so good. This is my favorite. And now you can make it too. Now, when it comes to making home teas, you might be thinking, why don't you just go out and buy bagged tea? And I have some like this one. They come in these paper sachets, and they're ground very fine, and they steep very quickly, and they all taste of paper. I don't like the taste of paper in my herbal tea. So instead, I buy bulk teas that I can then blend myself, and I recommend getting your hands on one of these. Now, not this one specifically. I have some really pretty pots that I can use for when I'm doing large groups and gatherings, but when it's just me, I use this. It has this. It has an insert, a mesh insert that I can put my loose tea in, pour my hot water over, and it steeps it right in the middle of the pot. No paper involved. This is my little 3-cup one for when I'm just taking care of myself. And it works beautifully. So, I love you all, whether new or old. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next week. Until then, whether making your own herbal blends or trying someone else's, just remember, don't be afraid to suit yourself and make whatever it is you do exclusively you. And I quote, as I will drop everything, let's try that one more time. And I quote, or at least I will as soon as I get to it. There it is, found it.